Hey guys, welcome to Breaking Reverb. Today we're going to be taking Ableton's reverb and using it in ways which you wouldn't normally think of when you're thinking of a reverb, and hopefully producing some really cool results. Okay, so the first bit of experimentation, I came up with a way to use reverb to create like a vibrato effect. And let me show you how that sounds. So this is the sound without the reverb. And this is with the reverb. Okay, so how did I achieve this? Well, first of all, we've got the reverb set up over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag in an extra reverb so that we can hear how the sound develops. And I'm going to just turn off these. All right, so first up, I have the filter set up, so we're only really getting the high end. We're not getting the low end on the input filter. And then I have the size brought down really small. You have the decay also really small. Okay, and then what you'll hear is if we start to play with the size here, we get these kind of pitchy effects. So then I had the idea to modulate this using an LFO. So here we can take Ableton's LFO and we can map this to the size, and here we just need to bring down the amount from 100% down to let's just bring it down to like 11%. I'm not sure what I did over there. Okay, I used different amounts, but I used a different like a different technique to get that vibrato. Anyway, the point is you just want to make a really fast LFO that's going to be covering these amounts. Doesn't really matter how you get there. So here we just need to increase the rate. And we're going to bring down the depth. So now you can hear that vibrato starting to come in. You can also play with the offset to see if it sounds better in some positions. Quite like it there. Okay, the second idea that I came up with was modulating a sample. It can be any sample, but in this case I chose this clap sample, which is from my claps pack called Gluten-Free Claps. And so what I wanted to do was basically have some modulation that makes the clap sound slightly different each time it hits. So I came up with this reverb setting. So you can hear the tail sound slightly different each time. And I'm just going to show you how that was set up. Okay, so the idea here is to use the early reflections within the reverb and the density here setting to create sort of like these little grains that are changing in pitch over time. Okay, so what I like to do when I'm working on reverb is just turn it all the way up to 100% wet. And to make that even more clear, I just turned up the diffuse and the reflection up another 6 dB. Then I increased the size. And the decay you can play with, again, once we set it all up, you can get some really different results. Okay, then we bring the density down to sparse. And then you start getting these like little grainy textures. And I want to take this input filter and just move it up a bit. Okay, now we can start playing with this. So here I put the rate up to like 1.3. And the amount up quite high. And then the shape to 1. You can play with these settings and see what you like. Okay, the rest of the settings, I mean, this is all down to experimentation. There's no right or wrong, but you can get some pretty cool effects. Even playing with a pre-delay, you can get some interesting sounds. Playing with a decay. Okay, and then I would just probably, if I was using this in a track, bring down the dry wet quite a lot. Just so we have some interesting tails as opposed to just your normal reverb tail. Okay, let's move on to the next effect. This one is what I called vocal stutters. I don't know what else to call it, but basically what we're going to do is take a vocal that we would normally have in a track, and then we'll be playing with the freeze function to create some cool vocal tails and then blend those back in with the vocal. And let me show you what that sounds like at the end.
I just wanna feel right. I just wanna feel right.
Okay, so the vocal is from the Lauren Lamont vocal pack, if you haven't seen that one yet. And so what I did here is I took the reverb and set it up to be quite a long reverb.
I just wanna feel right.
Yeah, you can see the size settings and decay settings. I'm not going to reset that up again. Turned up the diffuse and the reflect. Point is I kind of just wanted quite a long, kind of bright reverb. And then the idea here is to use this freeze function in different positions and record that out. So let me show you how I would record that out. Make a new audio channel. And then here we're going to select the input of vocal stutters. So now the sound's going to go into here when we arm it. And now just hit record.
I just wanna feel right.
And now I've just turned on the freeze function. And so now we've got this frozen sound. And what I want to do is just copy that and paste it across so we have just the reverb, frozen reverb running through. And that's one sample that we can use. Then I would go through, just duplicate this again and do it again. But try and catch it at a different moment so that the reverb tail sounds different. So let me just turn that off, and what I'll do is I'll start playing it from here so I have time to get my mouse down here. Now for freeze I'll go,
I just wanna feel right.
so I'm just trying to basically turn this freeze on at different points in the phrase to get different tails. So now we've got two different sounding samples, this one and this one. And so I did that 4 more times when I initially did it, and I got all of these different sounding reverb tails. And then what I did was take them and kind of chop them up to change over time. So we're playing each sample consecutively. And we've got some effects on here, but let me show you what it sounds like without the effects. Okay, so you could probably come up with something more interesting, maybe almost like melodic if you time it nicely and come up with some cool rhythms. But what I did here was using Ableton's tremolo effect, which is just auto pan. You can just search tremolo, and that's it. I just set that to 16th over here, brought the amount up, changed the shape, and then use the offset to get it timed nicely. And then I wanted the tails to kind of overlap a bit. And then low cut it to make room for the original vocal. And then with that, let me just turn this freeze off.
I just wanna feel right.
And then, as opposed to just grabbing like a vocal atmosphere from another sample pack, now you've created like these atmospheres and like little vocal chops that feel like they are a part of the original vocal, and they fit the track much better and kind of make the whole idea a lot more cohesive. Okay, so yeah, that was part of a new series that I'm thinking of continuing, where I take seemingly boring plugins or just stock standard Ableton stuff and try and use it in more unconventional ways to hopefully spark some creative ideas in you. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.